From your experience in digital tools, what effect, positive or negative, have you seen affecting the youth, especially on their mental health?
So look at it this way. You have a vessel that is giving you a wide range of opportunities. I mean, we have seen the opportunities that have come about through use of social media by technically everyone. But even so, within the Kenyan context, we have the youth. And last year, for instance, we had the youth really coming out strong using digital platforms to be able to engage in civic education, participating in the country's governance, if you may. That is just one of the gains. But then there is also the other side to the mental effect of it. For instance, the mental health issues are as a result of, for instance, long use. You're not able to sleep well, you're not able to engage well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zawadi Kerubo, and welcome to another episode of the UMB podcast. Today, we're joined by a very, very talented and very, very smart woman. So, imagine your work, not just changing policies and all of that, but actually you being in the parliament and doing what matters on the ground. Our guest today does that, from training journalists on digital safety to being a mover and shaker in the digital space. Help me welcome Sharon Kechula.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here today, and I'm glad to be sharing the tidbits and the knowledge that I have within the digital space.
Thank you so much for coming. So we'll just jump right to it.
Yeah.
From your experience in digital tools, what effect, positive or negative, have you seen affecting the youth, especially on their mental health?
Yeah. So look at it this way. You have a vessel that is giving you a wide range of opportunities. I mean, we have seen the opportunities that have come about through use of social media by technically everyone. But even so, within the Kenyan context, we have the youth. And last year, for instance, we had the youth really coming out strong using digital platforms to be able to engage in civic education, participating in the country's governance, if you may. That is just one of the gains. But then there is also the other side to the mental effect of it. For instance, the mental health issues are as a result of, for instance, long use. You're not able to sleep well, you're not able to engage well, your sleeping pattern is distorted, for instance. So I'd like to look at it from this perspective. There are opportunities. More youth are gaining employment. Nowadays, the youth are able to get into the online space and, learn coding, for instance, gain a skill within the digital platforms, depending. They're able to sell their products within the digital platforms. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have X, TikTok. And if you look at it, then in a way it benefits them. But then prolonged use or also misuse for that has also certain effects. For instance, the experience that different genders have within the digital platforms are very different, and we'll get into it as well. For instance, the female have a different experience altogether, and this is as a result of cyberbullying, which has an effect on mental health as well. Yeah.
That's right, and that's very interesting. So, talking about the difference in experiences for genders,
Yeah.
you did research the technological facilitated gender-based violence. For someone who's never heard of this term before, could you please explain what that is?
Okay. Basically, technology facilitated gender based violence, abbreviated as TFGBV, is a relatively new phenomenon. And I'm saying relatively because it has existed for a while. And this is just online harms that are perpetrated by use or assisted technologies, including the internet, mobile devices, computer, access of telecommunication tools. And we have seen violence that we originally knew as gender based violence transferring from offline to online. Hence the word technology facilitated, but then we retain the gender based violence aspect of it. And fortunately, the harms that we see online have a way of crossing to offline and vice versa. Yeah.
Right, right. So, for example, like the doxing or the what is it called when they make a false image of you,
Deep fakes.
deep fakes? So that falls under technological. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And it affects all genders, by the way. Only that we need to already be aware that women are more susceptible, they are more vulnerable because of the existing inequalities already existing in our environments and in our societies. So all this is amplified within the digital space. So we have, as you mentioned, doxing, where we share each other's contact without consent, especially for malicious purposes, with the intent to harm or to abuse another individual. Yeah, and of course, deepfakes, and especially with the emergence of AI, we have seen a lot of manipulation of images, even videos. We have seen a lot of it being done on women, especially. There's a study that was done sometime last year, which did cite that 99% of deepfakes are of women.
Whoa,
99%.
that's crazy.
Exactly.
That's insane. And talking about the 99%, is there something that women could do specifically to not fall victim of such?
Falling victim, I think it goes back to our interaction, online interaction, and also just our personal values, really. But a lot of media information literacy, digital safety and security trainings must happen. So what we have come to see, most of us have digital devices and we do not know how to use them. We don't even know the security features that are available, and hence the need for digital safety and security. When it comes to media information literacy, the content we consume, where we consume, how can we be more responsible around it? Those are things that we need to start educating young people, especially from at very young ages. And even if we could go to the primary level, that would be very good. Some of the platforms that we use, for instance, have some protective features, but we are not also aware of that. You would assume that just because I am a grown up and adult, I know and understand how to use my phone. I do not know sometimes, many a times, people do not know. And thereby, sometimes just taking people through the tools that they're using, what features are available for them in terms of safety and security is really good responsibly. How can we make women not be victims? Unfortunately, it goes back to societal values. How much do we value respect for one another and difference in opinion? Unfortunately, we just are a mirror of what exists offline within our environments, and we tend to portray it within the digital platforms. And that is truly a mirror of how rotten or not our society is, unfortunately.
So it's just an online reflection of what just continues to go on the ground
Exactly.
and everything. So it's just given the wrongdoers a different platform
Exactly.
to continue doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and remember with the digital platforms, there's anonymity. And one of the
Actually,
benefits, and especially to social skills, is the fact that I can interact with as many people as I can without the need of me being identified.
making of pseudo
Exactly. I can
accounts.
have a pseudo account. I can even create a chatbot for purposes of harassing somebody. And especially that we're going into the election period, that is quite, it is quite high.
Yeah.
It happens on a regular basis. And just looking at the availability in terms of infrastructure, in terms of accessibility for us to be able to purchase the data bundles or Wi-Fi internet, to be able to engage within the digital spaces is something that we really need to look at. We need responsible engagement within the digital spaces, which many a times is really lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just talking about this is giving me goosebumps. And are there like digital rights or measures put in place to reprimand the people who make these digital wrongs?
Oh yes, there within the Kenyan space, we do have the policy frameworks that are available. You can report to the DCI. There are organizations such as GVRC, gender. I think GVRC. I'm forgetting the word the name in full. There's COVAL. It's an NGO as well. They offer support to victims of or survivors, let's say, of TFGBV. but also the DCI. But then this also comes with a gap. Most of them are not trained, so they don't understand harms that happen online. And unfortunately, we end up re-traumatizing the survivors because we ask funny questions, if I may. Wewe kwa nini ulituma picha zako? Who forced you to be online? Nobody told you to be there, right? Yeah. But it is your right for you to engage with the digital platforms. So in the process, mentally, we are affecting the survivors, and it takes them to a place where, there's something that we're calling the chilling effect, where you decide, what, I will not engage, I will not report. So that is what we have. Within the platforms, there are reporting mechanisms. But unfortunately, we do not have a high success rate within the part of Africa that we come from. Unfortunately, that is the word. And I'm very specific with Africa because the figures are also different with other regions. So within Africa, the numbers of response in terms of, support from the digital platforms is a little bit low. But also it comes with the burden of proof for us to actually report some of these cases. Yeah. Do we report? Because if we don't report, then no action will be taken.
Speaking of burden of proof, it would be really difficult to prove that a deep fake isn't like fake.
Oh, yes and no. Yes, because right now, at least, there's advancement in technology, and there are tools that are able to detect AI-generated materials. And that is one sure way of, being able to just determine the authenticity of an image. You can also use, for instance, Google Reverse, which is very much available within the Google platform. You look at an image and then you reverse, there's a whole process about it on how to do it, which, takes us to the aspect of digital safety and security. How empowered are we to understand some of these? But truly, unfortunately, there's an impact more, which is far more dangerous: misinformation. So many people don't know how to determine the real from the fake. So in the process, we have disinformation and misinformation. And unfortunately, because most of the users in online spaces are the youth, then they're used for that purpose, to perpetuate and amplify misinformation and disinformation.
Yeah. And that could be used so much, especially now going into the campaigning.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So if you're ever caught in a scandal like such, the places she's mentioned, DCI. And speaking of DCI, we already have a problem of the whole reporting gender-based violence. Do you think the TFGBV is more downplayed than the actual gender-based violence?
Yeah, unfortunately, TFGBV, as I started by saying, was a relatively new phenomenon. And unfortunately, even within the legal framework, it's not recognized anywhere. So it is tagged under different policies. For instance, the Sexual Offences Act, the Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act. Those are the policies. And unfortunately, even within those policies, there is no terminology as TFGBV. So and that is why you must name the vice that happened or the harm that was caused in the online space, which, for instance, is covered largely under the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. When it comes to the sexual offences bit, there are, of course, there's the sexual harassment, which happens largely. We have seen the body shaming, which happens within the digital spaces, and it also comes with the bearing the mask of sexualizing the survivors or the victims or even users of digital platforms. So the greatest thing is not so many bodies actually understand TFGPV, but then there are various organizations that are at it. They are training, they are educating the masses around this. And part of them is the National Coalition on Freedom of Expression and Content Moderation, which is a project which is run by UNESCO, and it has various organizations. These organizations come together to just look at issues around the digital space and differently with their unique capabilities and strengths as organizations are able to then tackle issues within the digital space.
That's awesome. It sounds like there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yes, there is.
But we're happy that we've started.
Yeah.
by simply having this conversation, we are educating a number of people about the effects of the digital space,
Yeah.
both positive and negative. And for a woman or just anybody who's stepping into the digital space, what practical tips could you give them?
Um, What practical tips? One, two-factor authenticator. That is just one. That is at the bare minimum level, to avoid hacking, for instance. If I got hold of your phone, am I able to access it? Using complex passwords. That seems very simple, right?
Yeah.
But most of us will put a 1920, my date of
Your
birth,
birthday,
right?
yeah.
And when I have access to one of your devices, I have access to your life. Basically, if you look at how we store data and information currently, so some of those things, and also just being aware of the protections that you can have within the online platforms. Also, switching off your location. Many a times we have our locations on because probably we've ordered an Uber and we are on the ride, and we want to arrive at our places with precise pin location. However, after use, what do we do? Do we switch off or do we leave it on? Do we close our tabs after opening? And especially when it comes to financial crimes within the online space. And unfortunately, again, women are more susceptible. It does not even help that people can even, access your bank details just because of your browsing behavior. Yeah. Do we forget our passwords or do we remember all the time? So this is a whole other conversation that we can have separately. But when it comes to, as a beginner, just know that I need a password, a strong password for that. When I open a web page, I need to make sure I log out. Accepting cookies. How often do we accept cookies?
So many people don't know what the cookies are.
Exactly. And we don't even know what is being disclosed over there, right?
Yeah.
And then we just check, accept because we
Accept.
want to access the page. And those are the small, minute things because now when it comes to accepting the cookies, you're basically saying, hey, according to their terms, you're permitting them to use your data, which again, into a different person, you are going against their data privacy. So again, a different all other conversation around data protection.
This sounds very complex for me.
No, I promise it's not.
But we have learned so much today. We have learned ways to prevent, okay, not really prevent, but try keep ourselves safer in the digital space.
Yeah.
So if you or anyone you know have gone through, what can I say, have gender-based violence online, please make sure to share this video to the person, go and report so that it doesn't happen to somebody else and so they just don't continue. And thank you so much for viewing. Thank you so much for subscribing. And to our guest today, thank you for making time. And I hope we can have another session where we can continue talking about what we haven't discussed today.
Sure.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and see you next time.